Hello everyone. My name is Sarah Shaw, and I work at Creaky Joints, a digital community for millions of arthritis patients and caregivers worldwide who seek education, support, advocacy, and patient centered research. I'm so excited to welcome you all to this important event that I'm helping moderate in honor of World Arthritis Day. The event is called Navigating the Workplace with Arthritis, run by the Canadian Arthritis Patient Alliance, also known as CAPA. We have a fantastic panel of speakers representing the Canadian Arthritis Patient Alliance, Creaky Joints Canada, and Take a Pain Check here with us tonight. So let's get into who's here with us tonight. And why don't we start off with Annette? Can you introduce yourself? Annette, are you there?
Yes. Hi, I'm Annette McKinnon, and I'm a board member with Canadian Arthritis Patient Alliance. I've gotten really involved with patient partnership and patient engagement since I retired, so I'm one end of the scale looking at arthritis in the workplace.
Welcome, Annette. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here. Next, I'll pass the mic on over to Natasha. Natasha, feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. So, hi, my name is Natasha. I am a second-year university student at the University of Ottawa studying biomedical sciences. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit organization called Take a Pain Check. I'm kind of newer to the whole workplace life, so I'll be kind of going into what my first job was like and things like that.
Great. Thank you, Natasha, for that introduction. And passing the mic on over to Michael. Michael, can you share with our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Hi everyone, I am Michael Kaluva. I'm a fashion designer. I own my own business. I'm also a arthritis patient and advocate, and I am calling in from Toronto today.
Wonderful. I'm so glad to have all of you here with us this evening or this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're listening from today, in honor of World Arthritis Day. So let's get right into these questions. So let's talk about a little bit about what your personal experience has been with rheumatic disease. What has it been like? What has it felt like? What has it meant to you? I will pass the mic over to Natasha. Natasha, why don't you take this one first?
Yeah, for sure. So I was diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis at the age of 13. Currently 19 years old, so it's been 6 years of fun, I guess. Um, in terms of how it has affected me, mainly my fingers, wrists, feet, and ankles are impacted the most. And so, kind of living with rheumatic disease, it fluctuates day to day how I feel. And so, definitely some of the things even at school and in the workplace, my joints are like heavily impacted, so it is something that I always need to be mindful of.
Thank you for sharing that, Natasha. I think that that's really important to let our listeners know, and maybe people who don't have an experience yet with arthritis about what that is like, especially, like you said, you're in university, what that is navigating a chronic illness in a university setting and trying to get it, navigate into the workplace. Michael, the same question for you about what has your personal experience been like living with the rheumatic disease, what it's felt like, and what it's meant to you.
Yes, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and I was diagnosed over 10 years ago now. And it has been a huge impact on my workplace and what I have to do on my daily basis. It's all a lot about trying to figure out not to stress myself out and keep my body moving, and just trying to really navigate the ebbs and flows of this disease as it changes daily.
I think that's a perfect way to put it, that disease ebbs and flows. I don't live with arthritis, but I do have chronic migraine. And I feel like you have to kind of take every day, day by day, about, sometimes you'll have, a flare, and sometimes it'll be good, and sometimes you have good days and bad days. And you just have to kind of flow with your chronic disease. Annette, let's move. What about you? What has your personal experience been living life with a rheumatic disease?
Well, at first I was devastated, and my doctor didn't believe there was anything wrong with me. Um, when I finally had a diagnosis, again, it's when you find out you've got a chronic disease, it makes you. I think depression is a pretty common response to that. I used to work in a bank when I was first diagnosed, and I couldn't manage to keep on doing that. So I did end up also being an owner of my own business through, and that was a big help. I had a job where I could sit in a chair wearing a headset and do my work on a computer, and that was quite doable as long as I spent all weekend and every evening resting.
Those are some really interesting points that you bring up, especially the part where you said that you weren't really believed in the beginning. And I think that a lot of people with a disease such as arthritis, where it's maybe not a physical, sometimes you can't really see, people can't see exactly what you're experiencing. That is hard to navigate. So I appreciate you bringing that up and making that real for people listening today. So thank you, Annette. Um, so October happens to be National Disability Employment Month. So we're gonna dive right into what has that been like living with your rheumatic diseases and working. Um, Michael, let's start with you for this one.
Well, when I first was diagnosed, I pretty much started my own company, kind of like Annette. So I really was the boss at the time, and it was a lot of work trying to navigate getting just my schedule because I was newly diagnosed and trying to get the medication under control so I could work. But I really had to delegate to a team, and that was really a amazing time to build such an amazing team that could help me get through starting the company and then also taking it to the next level of production. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have assistants. So I really was focused on who could help a lot and what their schedule is like and if they were open to doing a little bit more than some other jobs would require, because it was just something that we really needed to do at the beginning. But once we got onto the same page, everybody was amazing and we're able to really strive in fashion. But it was, I think for me, the hardest thing was not being able to stand very long. So I really had to think about what I was doing all day, really plan it out. And then also drawing for me was really hard after I was diagnosed, everything with the medication. And I just sometimes couldn't draw like a straight line at all. So having my assistants really helped me navigate the beginning of trying to figure out what works for me, how I can make it easier, and what can I do for the futures that I'm setting up, like the foundation for.
That's so true. I'm so glad that you were able to, make something work for you. I know that can be a struggle for a lot of people trying to navigate their chronic disease and chronic rheumatic diseases in the workplace. You had a supportive staff, you had, supportive people, and then figuring out what worked and what didn't work for you. And because you could be your sort of like your own boss, that was supportive. That was a supportive way to kind of navigate that. So I think that's really important for a lot of organizations and companies to take note of. Um, Natasha, I'm gonna pass the mic over to you about what has. I know that you're on a different end of the spectrum about working with rheumatic disease, but why? But let's dig into a little bit about your experience, about what that's been like working and living with a rheumatic disease.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually got a summer job 2 years ago. So it was the end of my grade 12 year. Luckily, because of the pandemic, yes, I say luckily, it was virtual, which was super helpful. It was a research job and it was every single day, full time. But what was nice about it is that it was about doing research about kids that have arthritis and working on things about arthritis. So like the main focus was arthritis. And so that was really helpful because I felt like my manager and everyone and my boss, like they knew what other kids experienced because that's what we were doing our research on. So it just made sense if I did need accommodations, like they would be totally understandable about it. And I actually didn't have to get any accommodations because it was online. I could kind of take the breaks that I needed. It was flexible, so that was really helpful. However, this past summer, I had a job in person in a research lab, and what was really hard is that when the lab is not, I think, arthritis friendly, is what I would say. The stools are really hard to sit on. A lot of the techniques that you use in like chemistry, they're really hard on your hands. So I definitely had a really big challenge getting through that. However, when I did ask for accommodations, luckily my boss was a rheumatologist, so I feel like it just worked really well for me. She was really nice. She said I can like observe someone doing the experiments, so that was really helpful that she helped me with. But I think the biggest challenge that I faced was even getting to the point to get accommodations. Like speaking to someone at a hospital about, hey, like I need accommodations, because you have to go through the bigger institute rather than the specific department. And so that took a really long time for me to even get. So it wasn't even like I could get an ergonomic chair. Like I was sitting on that lab bench for a month. And then after that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so after having conversations, then they're like, okay, let's do something else. But for the longest time, like I never received an ergonomic chair because the process to get one was so lengthy. By the time that I even got it, it was like, okay, my job's over. I'm going to university. So that's something that I'd say was like the biggest challenge for me. Other than that, my everyone that I've worked with was super accommodating. It was kind of like the environment of a lab, using your hands too much, sitting on uncomfortable benches. That was like the biggest struggle.
You, Natasha, you brought up a couple of good points. One about the first job that you had being virtual and how that was so great and that really worked well with your chronic condition. And the second thing that I wanted to mention is you were talking about accommodations, which we're going to actually dig into a little bit later. So we're going to expand more on that. But just something as simple that you don't think about for people maybe that don't live with arthritis, that's, sitting for a long period of time or standing for long periods of time, that can be, really inflammatory to the condition that you have. And the idea of trying to get something that helped, to help make your workplace better, there's so much red tape to go through, and I think a lot of people often stop the process of getting workplace accommodations because of all that red tape. So I appreciate that you brought that up. Let's go on over. Let's pass the mic on over to Annette. What has been it like for you? I know you touched on it a little bit about living with your rheumatic disease and working.
Well, one of the problems I had once we got started and found we had clients and were doing all right was that we were part of a professional association, my partner and I, and neither of us wanted to go to the meetings. My partner was shy, but I couldn't stand that long. And I couldn't compete with the shoes and the people who were dressed so well. And it made me feel like I didn't really belong there, right? Because there's something about ugly shoes that makes you feel kind of dispirited. I've gotten used to them, but it takes a long time. Accommodation-wise, well, we didn't get that far yet. My partner was enthusiastic when we went into business together because we were both good at what we were doing. But after working with me for a number of years, she got so frustrated once. She said, I never would have become your partner if I'd known how much of an effect arthritis would have on you, your arthritis. So that was rather hurtful. And the only upside to that is that people who get diagnosed now, rather than back when I was diagnosed, find that they get better treatment. It's more effective. And so they don't end up, I hope, with quite as many difficulties as I've got with my hands and feet.
I wanted to just note that something that I didn't think about too is the shoes, the different shoes that you have that you wear to kind of help with arthritis, and I think that is something I didn't think about while working, and then um, going into business with your partner, that helped that worked for you, but then also the comment that was made about how much that affects. And I think that sometimes when uh, uh, we're working with people in our lives that don't quite understand the effect that our chronic diseases have on us, it can be hurtful. And I appreciate you sharing that aspect of your journey with us, Annette. Let's go on over into just a general question. Since we're talking about work, we're talking about your experiences. Like, what does what does work mean to you, and what value does it bring to you? Michael, let's start. Let's start with you for this one.
Work for me means that I have a purpose. I really enjoy working. I like making sure that I'm on a routine and on a schedule. It really helps my mental capacity along with my arthritis that I keep moving. So, it really makes a dual purpose in having my mental capabilities be stimulated and then also keeping my body uh, moving and walking around and doing what I need to do to keep up my job. So purpose for me.
Thanks for sharing, Michael. Natasha, what about you? What does work mean to you?
I definitely say it's better than school, but aside from that, I feel like for me, it same kind of as what Michael said, except like for me, it's just I do it in the summer. Like I do run an organization, which I technically would say it's work, but when I do have work to do, like for example, in the summer jobs I have, I feel like it gives me a purpose, as in like I'm helping others. I am kind of having my work recognized. I feel like it's sort of like a motivation thing, and it keeps me motivated to continue to explore more things in life. So I definitely say like work is something that's super important to me, and I do enjoy doing it on it whenever I can.
Thanks, Natasha, for sharing. And Annette, what about you? What has it been? What value does work bring to you?
Well, I took I had a real sense of pride in accomplishing my work. And I was also worried about ending up as a poor old person. And so I was working in a large part. I mean, the satisfaction was terrific, but deep down, I was working so that I would make money, and have a better quality of life all through my life, um, and to contribute to my family too. Because when I first was diagnosed, I had two young kids, and my husband at that point was changing his job, so there was a lot of stress. And also, I read on the American College of Rheumatology website that a lot of people with rheumatoid arthritis would find themselves not able to work after however many years they chose. And I just wanted to prove that I could manage longer than that.
Thanks for sharing that, and like for all of you for sharing that. I think we're gonna go into the next hot topic question about this is about accommodations, which over at Creaky Joints and GHLF, we one of the things that I'm very grateful for is that I'm able to work from home when I live with migraine. And sometimes bright lights and screen time can trigger me, and so that's something that I'm just really grateful that how we have a supportive workplace environment. So, can you all talk to me about what your experiences accessing workplace accommodations have been like? What are the highs and lows, or is there stigma, with deducting disability tax credit? Annette, let's start with you first for this one.
Well, to be honest, when our company was taken over, and I had to deal with a new payroll office, I didn't fill out the disability tax deduction form because I didn't want to admit to them that I was actually officially a disabled person. I guess there was still some stigma there. Um, being in a job with a partner, as long as my partner would agree, I could take advantage of accommodations that would help. And so things that I needed were different lights, just as you were saying with your migraine. Um, with dry eye and Sjogren's as well as arthritis, there are a lot of things that can be a problem for you. And I read that the daylight uh, bulbs were better for your eyes, and they seem to be. And also in offices, there are always ducts. There's always air flowing down from the ceiling, and so I had to get maintenance to shut my air ducts so that I wouldn't be sitting there in a constant breeze, drying my eyes. There were so many things. I took my occupational therapy recommended kitchen tools into the office because we had a little kitchen. So there's so many things that are difficult, like bending down and kneeling on the floor and filing. I was happy to have help.
I appreciate you sharing all of those tips with the people on this call. I think uh, I'm learning so much about just different ways that you can access workplace accommodation or different things to make your workspace work for you, right? Um, Michael, what about you? What has been your experiences accessing workplace accommodations? What have been the highs and lows, or how have you, made it better?
Yeah, so at my workplace, I have done a lot to accommodate just my needs, but also everyone else's needs too. So I have special desks that we use that can go up and down, which is really helpful if we need to stand, because if I sit too long as well, my knees lock up. So I definitely have to keep my body moving a bit. So I have these special desks that go up and down. I can use them for almost anything, for like my computer or for drawing or for anything that needs to be on a regular desk. For like cutting fabrics, I used to be known to just cut it on the floor, and I thought that was the easiest way to do it because some bolts of fabrics are so big that you only could do it on the floor pretty much because the tables would just not be wide enough or long enough. So I've gotten really good at not doing that anymore. I've gotten special tables where I can put them together and make it bigger for myself. And, that really helps me not being on my knees on the floor trying to cut fabrics. But I've also realized that, like, I have to also, have my parking space close as I can to the front door some days, especially in Canada, because it's so cold and the snow and the rain and all the different elements really do affect my joints. So I can't walk all the time outside here. Just it's unfeasible. And so I really try to get a parking spot that's close. And yeah, I've had to work with that to get it to where I need to get to. But yeah, I think I take it in strides of what the conditions are and what I need to do to help my body every day, because every day is a little bit different.
That's thank you for sharing that. That's such a good point about getting making your workplace work for you, and then getting the parking space close, navigating that in the rain and the snow and, different ailments that, flare up your arthritis. That's really good, really good tips. I'm going to turn it over to Natasha. What about how, what if you have any experience at all in accessing workplace accommodations? I think you mentioned a little bit of it before with you trying to get your ergonomic chair. What and what if you have anything else to share about the highs and lows of navigating that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd really say is like I wish that there was an easier process because I know that like Annette and Michael, like you have your own business, you're kind of like your own boss in a way. But for me, who like worked for a research hospital, it's definitely much more challenging in terms of like finding the right person to go to get those accommodations. And so I think the biggest struggle for me was like actually getting into contact with them. It took me over a month to get a contact with them. But yeah, definitely the ergonomic chair that I mentioned, it was a hard thing. Also, like your lab manager has to decide whether or not they want to get you that. And like for most of the time, my lab manager was away, so I never actually got that chair. But what was really nice is that they did understand after a while that like I can't be doing the experiments as much as everyone else or like using my hands too much. So they found alternatives for that and they're really open about it, but it's just like getting those official accommodations where I think like as a research hospital it's really important to have ergonomic chairs and better desks, just things as like that are more accessible, and I found that that wasn't really the case just in general. So like I definitely, that is something that I hope that actually happens in the future because I feel like that's super important. Not everyone lives uh lives like pain free. Everyone's dealing with pain, so it should be something that we take into consideration to just make the workplace more accessible.
We at Creaky Joints 100% agree with that. That I think that making the workplace more accommodating, working with, every body is different and, everybody at some point is experiencing pain. So why not make the workplace more accessible so that we're bringing more and more people into the workforce? Why not? And I think that it's so surprising, but also not surprising at the same time that a research facility, didn't have that it took so long for you to get those workplace accommodation, well, to attempt to get the workplace accommodations. So I'm hopeful the more we make noise. That's why we advocate. That's why we share our patient stories to kind of make more noise. That we are, people that we have this drive to work, but the workforce is not accommodating. So let's make adjustments to help make the workplace better for all. Um, some of you have already answered some of these questions, so I apologize if I'm asking it again. But what does workplace support look like for you? If you had, a wish list out there, example like flex time, benefits, what would the perfect workplace look like for you as someone living with a rheumatic disease? Annette, let me start with you. Annette, are you there?
Oh, flex time. You said the magic words. Some days it just about kills you to get out of bed and get moving through everything you've got to do to get to work. And then if you get there and it's snowing, man, Michael really brought back the memories because if it snows all day and your car's sitting outside your window, you just know nobody's going to clean it for you. I think an awesome thing to have in workplaces, if they were big enough, would be a nap room. They had one of those at Medicine X when I went to the conference, so people could just decompress and lie down for a few minutes. I guess those are my main wishes.
You brought up such a good point that I didn't even that I realize happens when it snows, because I'm over New Jersey, and we don't get as much snow as some areas, but we do. But when you're when I used to be in an office and I would watch the snow pile up on my car, I'd be like, oh gosh. But I have to be the one out there cleaning it off. But I can't imagine what that's like as someone living with arthritis, with swollen joints and pain and fatigue and all the other things, having to do that day after day when you're in an area where you're dealing with that. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. uh, Natasha, what is on your wish list of what workplace support look like for you?
I think I kind of already mentioned it, but definitely like integrated breaks as well. My workplace did have that, which was nice, but I know that people on the other floors and then my building did not have that. And it's like case by case. I also think the nap room that Annette brought up is really interesting as well, and I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to take a break and like rest your eyes and go into a dark room, and then restart and reset. Especially because I know sometimes a lot of the medicines that we are on can also often make us drowsy, and sometimes you need a little break in the middle of the day just to recharge and refuel. Michael, same question for you. What's on your wish list of workplace accommodation, of workplace support?
I am liking this nap room as well. Like, I really am into that. I really enjoy having benefits for my work. I know that I can get a massage once a month, and that really helps out with being at a work desk, and the amount of tense that I get from working all the time on a computer. So having my shoulders or whatever massaged once a month really helps. Having benefits to make sure that you have physical therapy or you just need to get a checkup, I think is amazing. I also really think that having, as I said before, like parking space and things like that where they can accommodate you, and maybe it's covered parking or whatever you can do, but having that accessibility is really important to me. So yeah.
Good point about the covered parking. I wasn't thinking like that, but that's a good thing. And I think that we're all in agreement here that we all need a nap room. I think that's on all of our wish lists. Moving on over into into the befores. What has it been like to get a job or find employment? Or for those of you, I know some of you are self-employed. What has been your journey to self-employment? What kind of led you to that? What made you figure out that that's the passion that will bring you into work and to enjoy the work? Or if you're going into research, or if you're working in an independent role and learning how you can accommodate yourself there, what walk me through what that journey has been like for you. I'll kick it off to Annette.
Well, it seemed to flow. I worked in a bank, and that was a problem. But with the depression I had when I was first diagnosed, I started entering contests as a hobby, which sounds pretty flaky as a job idea, but it helped me remain optimistic because you never know who's going to phone you or what you'll get in the mail. And so that detail work that I did, all the following instructions and making sure I was doing things right, that I also learned in the bank, was easily applicable to research. It was market research that I was in, but health research takes the same kind of skill, the same kind of detail orientation, and so from the bank to the market research company, it was a part-time job I took on, which I got through a part-time job working for somebody else. And when the owner of the company said, "I've found true love. I'm moving out to Manitoba," and she tried to sell the company, we figured, my partner and I, that we could do the job as well as she was doing it. And so we made a deal with her and found ourselves business owners. It was luck, and it was an affinity for what we were doing. We had some great successes, and so it's nice to look back on them. So this is 5,650 surveys later. I retired.
Wow, look at that. I have to share something. I also I filled out contests and surveys. That was something that I don't know what it was. It was probably early on in my migraine journey that I felt like that was just something that, I was like, oh, at least I can be good. I can be useful. I can be
Yeah.
useful over here. And ironically, that's how I found some of my first clinical trial opportunities as well, by filling out all of these surveys. So it does lead you down a path of, of good stuff. I'm glad that your surveys led you there, Net. Um, Natasha, what about you? What has your journey to employment? I know that you're a little bit younger and just starting off on your journey, but what has that been like for you?
I think for me, the jobs that I have picked are just based on like my own personal experience and passion. Just because everything that I kind of do is related to like rheumatic disease, so all the jobs that I've been in are is research based related to that. And kind of my pathway to that would say I would be well, I got joint injections one year, and that kind of led me to my job. That's kind of how it was. It was in the hospital for sick kids, and I was just interested in why they were taking my blood and saliva and what they were kind of doing with it. So I reached out to the researcher, and then I got the opportunity to work with them this past summer. So it was pretty interesting to work in the rheumatology field, and the supports were really good as well. So it wasn't really I didn't really do too much to get there, if that makes sense. I mean, it was just my lived experience and passion towards um, advocacy and research. Hopefully that answers the question.
No, that does, and you talking reminds me a little bit of myself and how I kind of ended up in the position that I'm in. And a lot of for me, when I was already working at a different job, but before working at Creaky Joints and GHLF. But I had been sharing my experience, living with, my chronic illness for years, and found my way to advocacy and found my way to Creaky Joints and GHLF. And so I think it's just, sometimes we think we're not doing a lot by sharing our experience, by, talking about, what injection day is like, or what infusion day is like, or what our what a day in the life of living with our conditions are. But we're truly making an impact. And I think that's that in itself is a form of powerful existing right there. So I I think that the work, even if it's not considered work, but the work advocacy is work. So that's something that I just wanted to make a note of. And you all are such great advocates. So appreciate you being on this panel. Um, Michael, I'm going to pass this on over to you about what your journey to your self-employment has been like, finding your passion. I know that you're a fashion designer. Can you talk a little bit about how you got there?
Yeah, so before I was a fashion designer, I was a pro figure skater, and that was a very demanding job, and skating all the shows, and having to travel at the same time, and it was a very taxing on my body. So by the age of like 26 or 27, I retired from skating, and I went back to school. I went to FIDM, which is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles, and I got my fashion design degree. And when I was doing that, I also did an internship for a brand called Libertine, which was a Fashion Week label. They're sold at Bergdorf Goodman in New York and all at the higher end boutiques. And I started an internship there with just a project from school, just to interview my favorite designer. And literally I got the interview and on the same day I got hired. So it was really cool. I made like this book about the brand that was like 1,000 pages. It took me weeks to make, but in the end it really showed my dedication to what I really wanted to get out of that. So by the end of the interview I had a job, and then it turned into a full-time job, and it was also very demanding but in a different way. I was newly diagnosed. I was looking to see what my options were in fashion. I just graduated from design school with a degree, so I wanted to put that to use. And a lot of designers come out of school and they start their own brand, and they work for a brand. And so I decided at that time that I really wanted to explore working for myself. I was working at the brand for over, I think, 2 or 3 years, and I was like, I can do this myself, and I think I can do it at my own pace, and do it for something that I can have a voice later to share my story about how you know I was able to overcome so much in the industry with the rheumatic disease.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's really important for people to hear that, our careers, can take turns and maybe not end up the way that we thought that they were going to end up, and then we can turn it into a passion, and that you maybe didn't expect. So I just I think that that's some good advice to listen to for those that are listening today. Speaking of advice, um, we're kind of getting down to the end of our questions. What advice would you share with others who are struggling to work struggling with work and arthritis? Natasha, I'll turn to you for this start.
I definitely say reach out to people to make sure that you are getting what you do need. But I think the biggest way to do that is definitely learn how to advocate for yourself. And if that is a challenge, there's definitely people that you can talk to, like us on the call today. I do find that, like, when you do reach out, we could definitely give you some support or resources to help you advocate for yourself. So finding the right resources to help you will help you then be able to advocate for yourself in the workplace and make sure that you are getting what you need and like what you deserve. I don't think you should be doing things that you don't like, or you can't. If you can't get accommodated, then it's not worth the stress and the pain. So and yeah, so definitely, like, my piece of advice would be reach out, get the resources, and advocate for yourself.
That is great advice. Thank you for sharing, Natasha. Um, Annette, what advice would you give for the others who are struggling with work and arthritis?
Well, this is a little bit like what Natasha was saying, but it really helps you to have a community of people who understand you. And I've found community online. I'm in a few support groups. I'm in a number of real life groups. And knowing that other people have the same challenges or similar challenges and they've gotten through them, and finding out their tips and their methods of getting through them has been great. You can accomplish a lot more when you're working, when you've got support behind you. And another thing that helped me, once I wanted to speak up and express different opinions, was a group that I joined. There's a health mentor program in Halifax, in BC, and in Toronto, where people with chronic health problems speak to students in the different health professions. And I found that sitting there with a small group of students talking about what it's like to live with a chronic disease really helped me to gain the confidence to go out and speak in front of real people. In the job I had, we never saw our clients. They were people on the phone, and it's really easy to develop great relationships on the phone and feel uncomfortable when you actually see people in person and wonder if you meet their expectations.
I think the what both you and Natasha said were great about finding community, and I think that that's so helpful. Finding your people, finding support. Michael, let's pass it on over to you about what advice would you share?
I really like Natasha's and Annette's points of finding a community. I was able to find Creaky Joints at a time when I really needed it. And I really wanted to find a group that was positive. I think there's a lot of negativity out there when I was first online looking through things and communities to join. And I really wanted to, find something that wasn't going to drag me down and really to elevate me, especially when I'm trying to look for a job or trying to go to another, level in my career. I think that when I first was, kind of searching for the right community to be a part of, I could definitely tell very quickly that a community wasn't working for me. So I think finding the right community and the right type of positivity to go into, your career is really helpful, and to have that mindset, because negativity will not help.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that, and Annette and Natasha. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that maybe that any of you wanted to bring up?
You know what I have found really helpful to me, and that I wish more health professionals realized, is the value of the encouragement that they give you. So when you go to see a physio, or you see an occupational therapist, if or your doctors, if they tell you that you're doing well, if they can pick on something positive that you're doing, and give you a little pat on the back for managing to get past that one thing, it's like a building block, and so you can build on that encouragement and develop a really strong sense of self-efficacy and belief in your own ability to change what is happening to your life and to your disease. So that's one thing I always tell people: encourage your patients, encourage your fellow community members.
I 100% agree with that. I think encouragement is so important in all aspects of your life, but hearing it from your, healthcare team, your healthcare provider, that just gives you the extra oomph to keep going, right? Michael, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of say about this kind of same thing, is that, yeah, my doctors have been amazing support system, and have always encouraged me to, strive further, and with their help. And I think by finding the right combination of an amazing doctor, a great community to be a part of, and then also having your medication stabilized and, working for you, I think it's just so important in finding that support system as a whole. It really makes a difference in when you want to strive for in life.
We co-sign that as well. I think, Natasha, was there something that you wanted to say, or?
No, I think Michael and Annette got it all.
Great. Okay, great. Well, I think that kind of wraps up all the event. I want to take a moment to really thank Kappa for hosting us here tonight. I want to thank Take a Pain Check, and I want to thank our amazing, fantastic panelists, Michael Kaluva, Annette, and Natasha for joining us here tonight. And thank you all for being here and for listening to us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and until next time.